Today, we'll be making... Yeah, not so tough now, are ya? Give me that. Today we'll be making the Holy Mackerel from TF2. These are things you'll need: cardboard, box cutter, X-acto knife, hot glue, Mod Podge, newspaper, sponge brush, paintbrush, titanium white acrylic paint, black acrylic paint, burnt sienna acrylic paint, wild wasabi acrylic paint, Virdidian green acrylic paint, classic green acrylic paint, azo yellow orange acrylic paint, yellow ochre acrylic paint, paper, and a rubber band. First, I started out by drawing the shape of the fish onto a piece of cardboard. And while it might be silly to draw the mouth and the fin in the eye, it does help to just get the full thing in your mind and help with getting proportions correct. And then I cut it out with a box cutter. Then I marked out about every inch or so along the length of the fish, and then I cut out some corresponding ribs that I then glued on with some hot glue. Now the ribs will act as support for the final layer of cereal box cardboard that's going to go over top of them, and it helps maintain the shape of the fish. And in the end, it came out to like 26 individual ribs that I glued on. It's probably a little overkill, but whatever. Then I covered it with a layer of cereal box cardboard. Now I did this one side at a time, and I had to make multiple cuts to get the cardboard to conform to the shape, and that did leave some gaps, but those will be covered up later. And as you can see, I did leave the middle uncovered, and that was so when you would move it around, it would kind of flop around like it does in-game. And I did make some little spacers in there so that it wouldn't flop too much to either side. Then I cut out a couple strips of cereal box cardboard and rounded the corners and glued them together, and then hot glued that onto the fish to act as lips. And then I cut out a couple circles of cereal box cardboard and glued them on to act as the eyes. Then I covered up the gap the lips left with some more cereal box cardboard, and I marked out where the gills were going to go. Then I used my X-acto knife to cut the gills. And then I used my X-acto knife and my box cutter to kind of like fold the inner edge of the gill in to kind of accentuate the gill shape and give it some depth. Then I cut out the fins out of some cereal box cardboard and glued them onto the sides. Then I used paper mache to cover up all the gaps and seams. And how you typically do this would be newspaper or just any paper and watered down white glue. I was lazy and just used Mod Podge, and that works just fine. It's a little more expensive. Then when I covered everything up, I let it dry and it was ready for paint. First I did a base coat of flat gray primer. Then I painted the underside of the fish with an off-white color. I can't remember what I mixed together. I know it was white and either yellow or brown to get just a nice off-white color. Then I painted the face and the sides with wild wasabi acrylic paint. And I painted the top with Virdidian green acrylic paint. Then to give it a more natural look, wherever the Virdidian green and wild wasabi met, I painted along that with more Virdidian green and wiped it off with a paper towel. And it gave it a nice blended look and not just a very hard line between the different green colors. And then I did the same wherever the wild wasabi and that off-white color met, just to get that blended natural look. Then I mixed together some classic green and black acrylic paint to make a nice dark green color, and then I used that to paint a strip from the head to the tail on top of the fish. I painted the 4 stripes on both sides. Then I blended those stripes in using the same technique as before. And I painted the fins orange. I'm not sure what exact paints I used, but I think I used the yellow ochre and the azo yellow-orange color mixed together. There might be some red in there, but I'm not sure. And I painted a strip on the top of the fish for the top fin. Then I mixed together a darker orange and painted on the rays of the fins. Then I painted the eyes, first with an off-white color, and then black for the pupils. Then I did a wash using watered down yellow ochre acrylic paint. I did it on mostly lighter areas and on the fins. Mostly just trying to match up the coloration that the actual in-game model has. And after that dried, I covered it with a layer of Mod Podge to protect the paint and to give it kind of a wet, slimy look. Now, once you got your fish all nice and painted up and covered in a layer of Mod Podge, you need to wrap it up in some newspaper, and you can use regular newspaper, but I thought to do something more in-universe. So I printed out a bunch of TF2 related newspaper things. At least one of the updates, they had these fake newspapers and, it'd give details about the update. So I used some of those. I used the Girardi comic, just printed all in black and white. And then I wrapped the fish as accurately as possible. And then, once that was done, got a rubber band and just put it on there to keep everything in place. And you could glue the newspaper down, but I didn't, because I was a little in a rush when I was making this, but also just because these papers are, they're probably gonna get ripped and torn and gonna need replacing, so I might as well make it easy to take off and put back on. And after that, it was done. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it's one of the best paint jobs I've ever done. I'd put it up there with the Half-Life 2 grenade. It's that good. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.